Hello everyone, this is Vivian, and today I wanted to talk about something that I've been thinking about lately because recently I had to take a sexual harassment training for work. Like I had to do the training, online training, and get a certificate for it and send in the certificate via email to, the people who are in charge of that where I work. And yeah, I mean, this sexual harassment training was really something. Not in a good way. I will actually be linking this training down below in the description box. And so if anyone wants, if any of you want, you can check that out for yourself and see the absolute cancer that is. But yeah, so anyway, in this sexual harassment training, which it's now mandatory in the city of New York. Like they started this in 2019, and I did have to do it back in 2019, but then I had to do it again for 2021. I didn't have to do it last year, I guess, because I did it end of 2019, so like it was still good or whatever. And yeah, so this is something that fairly recently became mandatory in the city of New York for all workplaces, as far as I can tell. And it's just, it's basically, as you'd be able to see for yourself if you look through that, basically anything can be considered to be sexual harassment, according to the wonderful and beautiful New York City Commission on Human Rights, which is the wonderful, wonderful organization that put this thing together. So, yeah, it is, wow. It's like almost nobody can say anything anymore. Like, you can't even tell someone that they look nice, or you like their outfit, you like their hair, that kind of thing. It's really like, wow, is anyone even gonna say anything to each other anymore? Like, who knows? Yeah, I mean, people aren't really seeing each other in person anyway. And well, I'm working virtually, I'm working online, but this training had to be done regardless of in-person work or virtual and online work. And if I didn't complete it, or if someone else didn't complete it, then I wouldn't be able to continue to work there. And it's just, yeah, I mean, oh, it's just, if you are going to look at this, then I highly recommend that you take a bucket, put it next to yourself. So like, in case you feel like vomiting, feel sick from it, you can use the bucket for that, because it definitely made me nauseous and like just, it's just a whole another level of brainwashing. And the funny thing is too, that I actually know some of the people in that video. If you watch it, there's a video featured towards the beginning with like actors. And I know some of them, they're New York City actors. No one famous, of course. I mean, like, I'm not famous myself either, but just, working New York City actors. And I saw them and I was like, wow, okay. But anyway, yeah, it's not a acting job that I would want to take on, to be in a video like that. But yeah, so basically my point is that this training, this sexual harassment training, highly encourages what I want to talk about for the topic of today's video, which is victim consciousness. So victim consciousness is this mentality, this pernicious mentality that people are denying their own responsibility for their own lives, and they're putting the blame on other people for all of the bad things and unfortunate things that happen to them. Okay, so sexual harassment is, of course, a very real thing. Sexual harassment, sexual assault, it does happen. But is it up to the New York City Commission on Human Rights to tell me and to tell everyone else what should and should not be considered sexual harassment, and how we should feel about that? And basically, it encourages being offended by everything as well. Again, like I said, when someone compliments someone on their appearance, saying, oh, you look nice, you look beautiful, I like your dress, I like your outfit, I like your hair. And so some people might be offended by that and take that as sexual harassment, and then they're, you know, every claim of sexual harassment has to be taken seriously according to this, even if it is something like complimenting someone on their appearance. And there could be implications for the people involved, like the person who's accused of this, of course. Yeah, just really ridiculous things. It's like the government does this in general, but specifically with this sexual harassment training, the New York City Commission on Human Rights is treating working adults like children, telling them how to behave, how to think, basically micromanaging them in every way possible, which is not something that's out of the ordinary for the government in general, as I said, but especially not when it comes to New York State, New York City, as the government there tends to be even more, like just bigger and more controlling than perhaps in some other places. Yes, but when someone is seeing themselves perpetually as a victim, they are giving away their own power. They're automatically saying, when they do this, they're saying, perhaps without even knowing it, that this other person or people, group of people or thing, whatever, they have more power over me than I have over myself. I don't have the power over myself. I'm not powerful. I'm weak. These people are stronger, more powerful than me. And so they're doing this to me. Poor me, poor me, poor me. The world is against me. The universe is against me. These people are against me. So this is not a healthy way to live. It's not good for an individual's own mental health, emotional health. It's not good for us as a whole, because what's happening now, as I'm sure many people can see, is that this victim consciousness is being encouraged throughout society, not just in New York City, but throughout society. It is being heavily encouraged. And it's almost being seen as a virtuous thing to be a victim now, because it's like, oh, like, I'm the good person here. I'm the good guy or girl. And then this person who's my abuser or whatever, persecutor, this is the bad guy. And there's like almost no gray area in between, right? It's just like, good guy, bad guy, that's it. And also the people who are victims are also lording their, I don't want to say power. It's like a false power that they're being given now by our society, where like people have to bow down to them because they're victims. And so they derive some sense of power from that, but it's not true power, because it's a totally artificial thing that like someone else is telling you that you are powerful because you're a victim. It's like, it's not coming from within, it's just this completely external and artificial thing. And then it's just everyone wants to play the victim here these days, right? Just everyone on all sides when it comes to politics, on the right, on the left, everything. And just it's everywhere. It's everywhere. And so I also want to talk about my own experiences with being a so-called victim and how I overcame that. So I actually was sexually harassed and assaulted back when I was 11 years old in the 6th grade. And I just want to preface this by saying that I do not want you to see me as a victim for telling this story. This is an example of how society would see me as a victim. But I no longer see myself as a victim. So, okay, in 6th grade, in my English class, there was this boy, you know, the same age as me in my class, and we had assigned seating in the class, and we were sitting next to each other. And so, you know, we just sat there because we were assigned these seats. It's not like I wanted to sit next to him. But pretty much every day, this started early on in the school year. It wasn't from the first day of 6th grade, but it started early on in 6th grade and went on throughout the school year, taking place almost daily. What happened was that this boy, when no one was looking, you know, because we had a lot of like group work that we would do in the class. I remember we had group work, and like, so I was kind of like busy work, like the teacher would assign this to us, we would work on stuff in groups, and so she wouldn't really be paying attention when this would happen. And just, he would, how do I say this? He would basically touch me in inappropriate places in inappropriate ways, right? Like he would touch my, you know, chest area, whatever I had then of any semblance of breast. He would touch that. He would also touch my groin area. I mean, of course, I was fully clothed, obviously, like in class and, you know, at that age, like, so this was something that was so shocking to me. This was something I had never in my life experienced before, thankfully, because I do know that a lot of children sadly do experience sexual abuse at much younger ages and, you know, in much more serious ways than this. But yeah, it was like, I just didn't know. Like I was 11, I had no idea. I did learn about biological aspects of sex and puberty a little bit in my like health classes or whatever you want to call it. But it was a very like a scientific level, you know, like naming the sexual organs and like, you know, just very basic things. And I had not experienced any like intimacy like that before. And like, that's good because you shouldn't at that age. You just shouldn't. But, yeah, so this would go on like pretty much every day. Like I tried to stop him. I was like, no, like, can you not do this? Right? I was extremely uncomfortable with this, extremely. It made me feel horrible. And like, you know, I just didn't know what to do. Like some of his friends who were in the class, like around him, like there was like maybe one other guy or like a couple other guys, like kids, in this vicinity who saw what he did, and like they sort of like thought it was funny and it like egged it on, encouraged him to do this to me. And yeah, I mean, I absolutely did not feel comfortable telling anyone. I did not feel comfortable telling the teacher, who by the way, she was a good teacher. By the way, I remember I liked her. So this was not, you know, it's like when she wasn't looking, like, right? And yeah, just I couldn't tell the teacher. I, also definitely didn't want to tell my mom or anything. Neither of my parents. Like, I didn't want to tell anyone. I didn't tell any of my friends. It's kind of like I kept it to myself. I mean, there were some, like, I guess, friends that I had in that class who saw, and some of my female friends, they didn't like what was happening. They didn't think it was right either, but they didn't really do anything. They felt like they really couldn't do anything either. Which, is understandable at that age, 11, 12 years old. It's tough, right? And you don't really know what's what yet. And yeah, so this just went on throughout the school year, and it went on outside the classroom as well, like particularly during lunchtime in the cafeteria. There were occurrences of him coming up to me and doing similar things, as well as him just like calling me all sorts of names and like other sorts of unpleasant kind of things that did not necessarily involve the touching. But yeah, it was like, no matter what I said to him, no matter how much I told him to stop, that I didn't want him to do this, that I didn't like this, that this wasn't funny or like fun at all for me, like he kept doing, like he'd like maybe stop, and then he'd do it again, and like just like try to sneak a hand on me, you know what I mean? Like yeah, so I mean, even like after school he would do this too. While I was waiting for the bus, he would kind of like sneak a touch in or whatever, and I would like move, like I'd try to move him away. I tried to actually kick him in a sensitive area a few times. It did not work. Like I did that after school, not in the class, of course. This was like after school outside while I was waiting for the bus. Like really nothing worked. This was just something I lived with for this entire school year, 6th grade. And it was not a good experience, of course, and I will always remember this. And I like I said, I held that in. I did not tell anyone about it until later when I got to high school. I finally told my mom about this. This was what happened. And then I kind of let go of it and pushed past it. So that's the thing, is that I don't see myself. I don't think that at the time, even because I was so young. So I don't see myself, and I didn't necessarily see myself either as a victim at that time, because when I was that age, things were a little bit different in terms of the society and like the victim mentality. It wasn't so much encouraged back then, but also I didn't really even know like what that was, like I just didn't identify with that, because it wasn't something that was in my awareness. And yeah, like, so I kind of held on to it all through middle school, even though it was very lucky for me that I didn't see this boy for the whole rest of middle school pretty much. But well, I saw him in 8th grade, actually, not so much in 7th grade, but in 8th grade I saw him. And then I had also heard from other girls actually that he did similar things to them as well, which is concerning, right? For such a young boy to be doing something like this. It's not healthy or normal behavior for someone at that age, especially. And so yeah, but I didn't tell them though. I heard it was kind of like a gossip sort of thing. And I only told my mom. I guess now I'm telling YouTube, but yeah, I didn't tell many people about this at all. And like, it was just, I knew even at that young age, when I was like, 9th grade, 10th grade or something. I think 9th grade actually. And like, I had to, I never wanted to see him again, for sure. I never wanted to see this boy, and I don't think I did really. Maybe here and there, but that we didn't have any classes together, which was good. But I knew that I had to let go of that and move on. And so I forgave him in my way. I forgave him. And that's what people have to do when you're, excuse me, my throat. When you are the victim in a situation and seeing yourself as a victim of someone else, you have to forgive that other person. And you don't forgive them for their sake. And it doesn't mean that what they did is good or that it's right. And, you know, what happened, it happened. You have to acknowledge that it happened, but you have to forgive them for yourself so that you can find your own inner strength and your own inner peace, and you can break free of those chains that you have attached to that person. Like, you need to be free in order to be free of this person, this situation, this mentality. You just have to forgive them and move on. It takes a lot of work, by the way, to forgive something like that, right? And there are people, again, in worse situations than what mine was even. So, you know, you have to say, yes, this happened to me. This thing happened to me, and it was a bad experience, but it's over. It's in the past. I'm no longer in that situation. I'm out of it. So, and I'm no longer interacting with that person, right? You know, hopefully, if you have a situation like that, you must cut ties with a person who does horrible things like that to you and is abusive towards you. You must cut ties, but you just please forgive them for your own sake so that you can move on, so that you're not stuck, so that you're just not stuck there for the rest of your life with that in your being, in your headspace, in your consciousness, okay? So I just wanted to say that. And there are other experiences of my own that I want to share that are not as drastic as this one, I guess, but other situations. One particular situation in which I did see myself as a victim, and this was when I was 22, after I had graduated from college and I moved to New York City. I did this 1-year acting conservatory program. So at the end of this acting conservatory program, we had a showcase for everyone who was in it, all of the actors who were in this program. We had scenes and everything, special stuff written for us, specifically for us, to showcase our strengths and everything, strengths as actors, our types and all of that, which type as an actor is just like essentially your essence combined with first impressions and the kinds of roles that you can play. So I'm not gonna get into that whole thing right now because it's quite complicated. I'm not gonna say what mine is and everything, and it should be kind of obvious. You all should probably be able to understand what kind of roles I can play, right? So that was funny. I just did something really typical for one of my types. But anyway, we shouldn't get too caught up on types because it's a form of labeling. And everyone, of course, including actors, is much, much more than that, much more than their type. So anyway, we worked so hard. I mean, I worked very hard throughout the year in the conservatory. It was every day, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. It was full time, very serious. And I worked really hard in that. And we had all these classes and everything. And so towards the end of this, when we were working on this showcase, we stayed there all day and sometimes night working on these scenes and everything to make sure that they were in tip-top shape. because the goal of this showcase was to present it to industry people, like agents, talent managers, casting directors, people like that. So the idea for this, the main goal was to get representation from this showcase, do the showcase, then somebody who's a rep, an agent or a manager or both in the audience, they see you, they have your headshot and resume, your information and your contact information, and then they reach out to you because they liked what they saw in the showcase. That was the idea. So yeah, I worked really, really hard on this showcase, had some very good scenes, very, very fun and funny comedic scenes. And it was, it was good. And I was proud of the work that I did and of the work that my colleagues did as well. I think everyone did a good job and worked really hard. And so I had good feedback from my fellow colleagues on the work that I had done in this showcase, as well as from the people who were directing this showcase. I had very positive feedback, like, oh, I'm like, that I'm so funny or whatever, because it was comedic. What I was doing was comedic, and that it was just like, I was hilarious, whatever. So that made me feel good, right? I was like, cool, people think I'm really funny. And it just, so I was obviously expecting to be contacted by a rep, by an agent or a manager. And I wasn't. I was not contacted by a rep from this. And I was so heartbroken by this, because I would say that the majority of people in this conservatory from this program who did this showcase, not all of them, a few didn't, but most did get some kind of rep out of it, or at least had a rep contact them for a meeting to see if they wanted to take them on as a client. And so I didn't have anyone reach out to me at all. And I waited, because this happened, so the conservatory was from September through June. So the showcase was the last thing that happened. It was in June. And so this whole summer of 2015, I was waiting. I was sitting there literally waiting for my apartment, waiting in my apartment for a phone call. I mean, I was still living my life and doing stuff, and I had started working like a non-acting related job, just like a horrible office job it wasn't totally horrible, but it was just like not what I wanted to be doing, and it was really boring to me. But like I was waiting in terms of like the acting part. I was waiting for a rep to reach out to me, to contact me, to email me, to give me a phone call. I was waiting, just waiting. I was like, why hasn't anyone reached out to me yet? Like, I'm hearing from all of my, well, not all, but most of my colleagues, that they signed with so-and-so, and like, how come no one reached out to me, huh? And so I was really like I said, just absolutely heartbroken, and also feeling sorry for myself. And yes, feeling like the victim, with just tons of self-pity that like, why, like, yeah, poor me. I'm like, I worked hard, and like, what is this? Like, I had all these, limiting beliefs about myself as well. Things like, well, what if I just suck as an actress? What if my acting's no good? And also, more especially since the industry is very heavily focused on looks, I was like, oh, well, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not thin enough, things like that, whatever. I'm like, or that I'm like not a good type or whatever, because that could be a thing too. Because for people who don't know, certain types are more popular, I guess, within the industry at certain times versus other times. So I was thinking, well, maybe that's the case. Maybe like I'm not a good type or something. Who knows? But anyway, there was no good that came out of this wallowing in self-pity and being like a victim. And I finally decided to take action. I was like, fuck this. I'm not gonna sit around and wait for a rep to come get me or call me or whatever. And so this was almost a year later. This was like May of 2016 then. I finally decided to take matters into my own hands, and I ended up auditioning for a theater company and getting accepted into it. And I was very happy about that because I didn't even expect to get in. And so that kind of, definitely made me feel better. Things started looking up for me, and I stopped victimizing myself like that. I was like, okay, maybe I do have talent after all. I am, worthy of being an actress and, being in shows and everything. So yeah, it just, like, I hope people could learn from that because it took me way too long to just be like, fuck it, I'm just gonna do my own thing anyway, and I'm not gonna wait for someone to come do something for me to give me these auditions or whatever. And so I took the agency myself. Right. I took action myself. And that, of course, made me feel much better, much more powerful. And so what ended up happening shortly after this, after I got accepted into the theater company, probably a couple of months afterwards, actually, I ended up randomly having, my awakening, my conspiracy theorist truther awakening. It happened very randomly, and I'm not going to get into that right now, exactly what happened, but it was unrelated to anything to do with acting, by the way. But it just I don't know, it kind of came out of the blue, and I was like, whoa. And so I ended up going down many of the usual rabbit holes, including Alex Jones and all of that. And so when that happened, I viewed myself as a victim. And not just myself, I viewed like humanity as a whole as a victim of these, at the time, I thought they were the be-all end-all controllers, right? Like that they really they ruled with an iron fist and they had all this control over us. But now what I want to call them is the creepy creatures who want to control us. Because that's exactly it. They want to control us, but can they? Exactly. That's up to us, right? It's up to us whether or not they can actually control us or not. So, but anyway, I was like horrified by all of this absolute overload of information that I was finding on the internet, of just everything, including the extremely significant event that happened in 2001. That in particular, just I was like, wow, just really in a broken hearted state from that, because the true story, as opposed to the official story, in my opinion, is much worse. I think we can all agree on that. We understand what I'm talking about here, right? On my channel, the people who are here, we understand. So I was like, holy frick. I was like, wow. Yeah, plus all this other stuff, with the stuff that they're spraying in the skies, and just all of this other stuff. And like with that one, with the stuff they're spraying in the skies, it was like, oh my God, had I never noticed this before? Or did I? Or like, what? And like, you know, now that I look, like, it's so obvious, right? But I was like, oh my God, we're all like being killed, we're being exterminated. And you know, of course, Alex Jones didn't help matters for me, because he's very much like a fear porn person. He pushes the fear 100%, like, you know, the sky is falling, we're all gonna die. I mean, we all are gonna die eventually, right? But just, you know, not in the way that he's promoting. So yeah, and so it actually took me a while, maybe about a year, if not more, to get out of the victim mentality of this particular thing. Because I was like, well, what can we really do? What can we do when all of these people are controlling us like this? And, you know, they have the power, we're powerless. And then, I think finally, like in early 2018 or something, I was like, fuck this again. Sorry, I shouldn't cuss, but you know, I can't help myself sometimes. So, anyway, I was just like, you know, I'm like, forget it. Like, no, like, I have power. We collectively have power. And this is a thought of mine that has only increased within the past few years, that like, you know, these people really aren't as powerful as I used to think, or as some people think. Perhaps if you're on this channel, you might think this, if you're like a truther, because some truthers do think this way. And I understand why. Like I said, it's, I think, natural to start off in that place, absolutely. But we have to evolve from that. So yes, because it does us absolutely no good. Again, like, no matter what the situation is, no matter who the perpetrators are, the abusers, no matter who the abusers are, it doesn't matter. We are not helping ourselves by viewing ourselves as victims. So we have to recognize our own strength and our own power, right? So also, I'm just checking my notes here because I wrote some notes, but what's happening now with COVID? Well, now, at least the idea that's being promoted by the media and the government is that everyone is a potential victim and a potential perpetrator in this, like, of the you know, the so-called virus, because with the whole asymptomatic spread and everything, like, everyone's a potential carrier, and then so everyone has to wear a mask to protect everyone else. And if you don't wear a mask, I'm a victim. I'm a victim of catching this thing and of being sick. And like, you're responsible for my health. Like, everyone else is responsible for everyone else's health. This is the idea that's being promoted, when in reality, each person, each individual is responsible for their own health. So yeah, it's just a very, very, very fatally bad idea to be promoting this particular thing with the whole asymptomatic spread and like the masks, everything. Like, I literally know people who are accusing other people who don't wear masks or whatever, and people who still interact normally in a social sense. These people are viewing the actually normal people, they're viewing them as like, yeah, as perpetrators essentially, and then like everyone else is a victim. And like, how dare you live your life when like all these people are dying from this virus, and like you're out here living your life and you're like breathing normally and you're still going to social gatherings, and like how dare you? It's that kind of thing, and it's just like, wow, I can't believe we're here. And this is so many people think this. So many. I need a sip of my tea. But yeah, it's just very unfortunate. We have to all pull ourselves out of that very negative state of being a victim. It doesn't matter how much the media promotes it and says that it's a good thing. And you should all know by now. I know the people on this channel probably know because you're all super smart. But like it just, whatever the media and government say is good and whatever, like, you know, it's the other way around, right? It's like we should do the opposite. I think we can all realize that by now. So, yes, anyway, I'm just checking my notes right now, just double checking, making sure that I got everything that I wanted to say. Yes, so it's very important to believe in your own self and in your own power, because everyone has this power. So stop seeing yourself as weak. Stop seeing yourself as powerless. Stop giving your power away to other people. It does you no good. It does us as a whole, as a society, no good when so many people are doing this. It's like this mass sickness that is spreading, this victim consciousness. It's truly like that's the real sickness, I think, that's happening, and why we're where we are right now with what's going on. So yes, please, everyone, believe in yourself and your own power, your own strength. Do not give it away. You are responsible for your own actions. You are also responsible for your reactions to situations. Like if you are in an unfortunate situation where someone did something wrong to you, you can actually choose how you respond to that. And you might feel a certain way, and you have to acknowledge how you feel. It's very important to acknowledge how you actually feel, like for real, how you feel. And just be like, okay, well, why am I feeling like this, right? And so you have to analyze it yourself. Why are you feeling like this? And what can you do about it to feel differently? Because something can always be done to feel differently, to feel more empowered, and to take yourself out of the victim state. Because you know what? We are all survivors, and we will survive. Just like that song, you know, that song from the 1970s by Gloria Gaynor, I Will Survive. It's so famous. It's like this disco classic. So I'm gonna actually link that below in the description box too. Or yeah, I can actually link it. Yeah, I'll link it so that you can all listen to that if you're not familiar with it, because you should be. It's a very empowering song, I think. A very good song, good lyrics, you know, because the older songs had much better lyrics than a lot of the more modern crap that's considered to be music now. As I said in my previous video. If you watch that, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, we will all survive anything that life throws at us, and we have all the power. You have the power, I have the power, and definitely you want to check out that song for sure. And you know what? Victim mentality is not welcome anymore. And I will see you next time.